Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, and when are you listening to this? Fifth quarter show, another edition. It's 4/13/15. What's going on, fellas?
Nothing, man. Just coming off a good weekend. Slow Monday. It's raining here and whatnot, but can't complain a lick.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, today is Monday. Generally we rock and roll on Wednesday, but today we're coming to you Monday. Same good content, same good dialogue. So I guess we need to get it started. Anything, Chuck, before we get started?
It feels good to be on the mic, and looking forward to being able to add a little bit to the show for you guys.
All right, we got, as you can see, you finally hear the third man in the backfield with us. So still gonna come at you with some updates and everything, and try to put together basically just lay your sports week out for you.
There it is. Just gonna lay it out. So today we're gonna talk about NBA. Major League Baseball is definitely trying to hit its stride as its opening season has really kicked off. Got some golf, some Masters talk, one of the majors that just took place. Also some boxing, NFL, and a slew of entertainment topics. So starting off with some NBA, playoff positioning is definitely in full effect. I think everybody is pretty much where they're going to be, right?
Yeah, I think only a couple of people can drop out. I mean, between 2 or 3 teams in the West, and then two teams in the East.
Right.
So not a lot of movement. Well, actually, in that top section of the West, it is because the Spurs can go from like all the way from 2 to 6 or something from what I was seeing.
Man, the Spurs. You mentioned those Spurs. I bet you nobody wants to play those guys right now. They are looking like they are definitely hitting their peak at the right time.
Yeah, it's been a long season for them, and we were kind of questioning. I don't want to say being critical, but just questioning how they came out the box. But they're an older group of guys, and they know what they're there for. It's almost like playing for majors on the on the golf side with somebody like Tiger or Phil.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the Spurs, like you just mentioned, they actually started kind of slow, but if I'm not mistaken, they're sitting with like maybe the third best record in the NBA.
Yeah, it's right up there, and from what I saw, it was like 23-3 since late February.
Wow.
Maybe even 21-3 in the last 24 games. So that's a heck of a pace right there.
Yeah, definitely a steady pace of winning. And looking at the second seed as they are right now, they would have to play Dallas. And I see that they're a half a game. Well, the Spurs are a half a game over the LA Clippers. I sure hope. I know Dallas is thinking, please, let's get the Clippers instead of the Spurs, because the Clippers are pretty much stationed or stuck in a number 7 seed, so that's where they'll be. But the Spurs and the Clippers.
You mean Dallas?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for getting me on that one. Yeah, Dallas is definitely stuck at number 7, but the Spurs and Clippers can actually flip-flop.
Right.
So, who do you think Dallas want to see? They want to see the Spurs or they want to see the Clippers?
Obviously, I think you stand a better chance with the Clippers. The Clippers are just such a disappointing team, and I know they've had some games missed from injuries with Griffin, but they got a lot of depth on that team. They got a lot of. It's a really well-balanced team, and I just don't understand why the win, it doesn't reflect in the wins, losses. But, I mean, to be in the top 3 in the West, it's hard to knock them too much for that. And then they have very experienced leadership with CP3 at the point. So that kind of just underwhelming to me, and I have zero faith in them going into the postseason.
Yeah, the Clippers are a strange team to actually put a finger on because, like you mentioned, they have some great, veteran leadership. They definitely have a coach who's won a championship, right, in Boston.
Right.
So,
two active big men.
2 very active big men. That I think Jordan Is that his name?
Yeah, DeAndre.
I think he's kind of underrated, man. I really think that he brings a lot of positive play to the team. I think he really should have. Did he make the All-Star game this year? I think he should have made it, but he didn't.
Yeah, I think he got left off.
Yeah, I think he leads the NBA in rebounding, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. I mean, he's a guy you don't have to run plays for him. He can still get you, between 9 and 12 points a night. Just, just being athletic and being active. And then, Barnes, we already mentioned, what's his name last week from Duke, JJ.
Right.
An efficient scorer at doing what he does. So I just don't understand why the results aren't there. But, they're a team that can still get into the tournament and be deadly. And at one thing I want to point out, 3 of the 4, I mean, we're looking at matchups and everything, but 3 of the 4 series, the opening round series in the Western Conference last year went to 7 games.
Yep.
So, that's probably letting you know that's a precursor that is, some of these teams are just going to turn it up, as we get into the playoffs.
Yeah, because right now we had the Clippers. If they finish at 3, if the playoffs started today, they would play Houston, and that's going to be like a drag out fight right there. Those two teams are definitely expecting to advance to the second round of the playoffs, so they're going to be ready to play. You got Dwight Howard coming back, trying to get his legs up under him, playing decent ball. We got Mr. Harden, who is definitely in the MVP discussion. So it'll be a good series, though, that 3 and 6. How about that 4 and 5, Portland and Memphis?
Memphis is just so workman-like, blue collar. But you got Gasol and Conley. But a lot of people are banged up on the team right now, so I would have to think. And Portland's another one. They're a little underachieving to me or underwhelming to me for the pieces that they have. But they are without Wesley right now. Forgot he's gone for the season. So besides LA, who's the other big man?
Man, it's
I don't even remember it's not Batum. We'll have to come back to that one. But even like I said, even though the West is the more superior of the two conferences, man, to me it's a lot of those teams in the middle. They just don't seem to win for some reason.
Yeah, they do. Portland, Lopez.
Oh, that's right, Lopez.
Yeah, Lopez. So
see, that should be a tough out.
Yeah, I would think so.
I mean, and you got someone like LA directing a lot of the offense through him. I mean, he shoot mid-range jump shots often. So, that's one thing I think about the West is that they do a lot of scoring in the paint versus the East. I think shooting a lot more 3-pointers and really you just, besides the other Lopez over in in New Jersey or Brooklyn, you just don't have a lot of spectacular big men on that side of the bracket.
Yeah, man. I think Lillard will have a good 7-game series. With that matchup, he should be able to exploit.
He should be pushing somebody because he got a big chip on his shoulder
going
back to the All-Star game. So,
yep.
Like I said, a lot of these teams may just be trying to stay healthy. Maybe they're just beating each other up in the middle of the throughout the course of the 82 games. And like I said, 3 out of 4 was 7 games last year. Everybody kind of comes back with the same roster, so I would pretty much expect the same.
Yeah, man. And let's move on to the East. I got into a very heated discussion a couple of days ago about Miami and LeBron James and how he left Miami, and I was kind of downplaying LeBron James and saying that he was not overrated, but he was definitely not, one of the guys who should be on the Mount Rushmore. And it's a LeBron James fan just blasted me. Oh, my goodness. He was killing me, talking about all you have to do is look at one thing, Jay. He said, look at Miami Heat right now where they're staying. And I thought about that. I was like, now I know they lost LeBron. I know some other pieces changed with the Heat. And I know Bosh was hurt. He's hurt. But for Dwayne Wade, I think several weeks ago to come out and say he's feeling the best he's ever felt, he's feeling healthy. And for them to not make the playoffs this year, that's kind of ridiculous, don't you think?
Now, what are they? They're 8th right now, right?
Miami?
Yeah.
Nah, they're like
Or they're outside of
they're out. They're 2 games behind eighth.
two games looking. Dang, things changed a lot since last show.
Right.
And this isn't even a full week.
Right.
Um,
Did you happen to see the Miami and Chicago game last week?
Bits and pieces of it.
Miami was up like 20-some points, Wood.
Right.
And I just don't know what happened. I don't know if the basketball guys put a lid on the rim or whatever, but they cannot, get the ball in the basket for some odd reason. And I thought with Dwayne Wade, being the superstar that he is, championship caliber type player, Hall of Fame player, matter of factly, he couldn't carry his team against Chicago. And I know Chicago is a tough team. I know that they are a good team, but they haven't been having a great year this year.
Right.
They're doing okay.
It was in Miami too, right?
And it was at Miami. And they were playing for a playoff spot, and they got blown out in the last third and fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think that's, and Spoelstra is on the hot seat, or he's he's being questioned every other week about him being a legitimate head coach or not. And to me, that's unacceptable. I mean, to your point, that's unacceptable that you lose a lead like that at this time of the year, knowing what's on the line, to a team that doesn't even have his best player or most elite player on the court. To me, that's coaching, because the ball probably should have went into Whiteside a little bit more, and somebody should have challenged him to to step up during the times when the perimeter game wasn't working. So, that kind of is a reflection of Spoelstra.
Yeah. Do you consider Dwayne Wade, right now as we speak, is he still a top 15 player in the NBA?
Not most weeks.
That's bad. Yeah,
not most weeks.
That's pretty sad, because I was just going to make a point to you and think, like, what top players who were on a playoff team in the past, they don't even make the playoffs the next year. I mean, I know LeBron left, and I understand Bosh is hurt, but at one time Dwayne Wade was top 3, right?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe even top 2, but he was another one. His game is so prefaced on athleticism, and now that he's not there athletically, I just don't think 3 or 4 nights a week that he can rise to the occasion to put out, to put forth the effort that it requires to be a top 10. I think he's just, at this point, it's no mark against him. I mean, somebody mentioned it the other day about Russell being on the ground a lot, but when you keep hitting that ground,
true.
I mean, that's almost like a running back taking hits in the NFL. I mean, when you keep hitting that ground for 82 game season, and you hitting the ground 4 and 5 times a night, we get down the road 8-9 years later, I think that stuff just starts taking a toll on you.
You're right, because that's amazing you mentioned that, because when I was watching the game, they was letting Dwayne Wade just shoot. They really weren't pressing him too much. His shot is just not consistent enough to, be able to not be as athletic in the paint as he was in the past.
Right, he got to get his floaters. He has to get his dunks, breakaway steals. I mean, it's a combination, or it's a formula that he used to use to be when he was flash and when he was dominant. And I just think when LeBron came over, I mean, it let him do some perimeter stuff, but it's easy hitting them jumpers when LeBron has sucked everybody in and you just floating around. But I'm not gonna lie, because I say again, he's still a top 10 guy for stretches, because I mean, that was 2 years ago, but when I went and caught the playoff game over there in Indianapolis versus the Pacers, and they were down, I think 3-1 that series, and I had to sit there and just eat crow and put my foot in my mouth, because Wade just came out and hit him up for like 39 or 38. I mean, and it was super efficient, but again, he was slashing, cutting, dunking, steals, and all of that. And like I said, I just think at this point in the game, and he doesn't really have a point guard that's setting him up for anything.
Good point. Great point. Yeah,
he's just in a tough spot for a Hall of Fame guy and somebody that they were talking about being a top 5 shooting guard of all time
now. And you are outside looking in with teams like the Pacers, Brooklyn and Boston. Golly, that's not a good look for Mr. Wade.
But I told you a couple of weeks ago, I thought it would be beneficial to the team and maybe even to Wade if he has 2 years left. It may be beneficial for them to be back in that lottery and possibly get a player.
Yeah, there
I
it
mean,
is.
it could be a silver lining in there that because most of these teams, some of these teams like OKC, I mean, you really don't have a legitimate shot or a puncher's chance going into the playoffs. So, you know, do you miss it or do you try to try to get there just to be a stepping stone for another team that's really, you know, getting ready to get it, you know, getting ready to make a run?
Yeah, I just think as a top dog, and you know how it is, you know, if you're a top gun and your peers and your friends are playing, your colleagues, you want to be out there too. That's just how I look at it. And I know that Wade, he's probably I guess he just be kicking it with Mary Jane. I mean,
Pauletta.
There it is.
It's unfortunate when things.
I mean, he's a top gun.
Right. It's unfortunate when you don't have the horses, you know, and you gotta that other group moves on. You know, KD's another one. I mean, how we think he feels right now,
Right.
sitting up, you know, broke down. So
Yep.
it's a cold world.
A very cold world.
Yeah, it's a cold world.
No doubt. So we got Atlanta, Cleveland, and at the 1 and 2 seed. I don't think they'll be upset or challenged by anybody, you know, down at the 7, 8, or the couple. So you think Toronto, because you watched Toronto last year and you went to the game, saw them guys play. You think the Toronto-Milwaukee series can possibly be an upset, Milwaukee prevailing?
Nah.
Not happening.
And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying because I think Toronto is a good middle team.
Okay.
They probably can't play with the elites,
Mm-hmm.
but I think man for man in the team ball that they play, I think they would make short work of a team like Milwaukee.
Okay. There it is.
You got Michael Carter Williams,
Yeah.
point, the one guy with the Greek name with all the letters in the alphabet except Z. Who's the shooting guard in Milwaukee? We don't even get to see Milwaukee.
The shooting guard in Milwaukee has to be. Oh man, you asked me too quick. I have it right here too.
Long story short, to answer your question, man, what do you think on
Chris
that?
Middleton and OJ Mayo off the bench.
I'm gonna toss it back to you. Chris Middleton. He's not. That's not getting you. Probably not getting you 2 games in offs as your starting shooting guard.
Yeah. And the thing about it, I feel so much better now because, you know, when you ask about Portland, I'm like, how could we miss Lopez?
Right.
Now you ask me about Milwaukee, I can't even pronounce half these dudes'
Yeah, I'm
names.
about to say they got the
So
they got
I'm
the
good.
all Europe team.
I don't feel, you know, somebody calling and listening, like, guy, I got to get your game up, but don't nobody know these guys. So we think Milwaukee will probably be one and done. So we go to that Washington, Chicago series.
That should be a grinder.
That should be who you going with?
Dang. I do appreciate and commend Rose for trying to come back this year.
Yeah, he did. He did.
I think the pressure was on him.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Washington just has not played consistently. So I would probably have to lean towards Chicago just being a grittier team and having, what's his name? The Gasol pal.
Yeah.
And the energy man in the middle, Noah. D Rose doesn't have a lot of time to work himself back into game shape or whatever it is. But I like Mirotic.
Okay.
You know, Mirotic for a rookie is doing his thing. So, I mean, Butler has kind of seemed like he's come back to the field a little bit as far as his scoring. But yeah, I think Chicago should probably take that one.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going with Chicago. Hey guys, trick question: who in the NBA is leading it with the most double doubles?
Most double doubles.
Yes,
You
sir.
got a player, Chuck. While I scramble to think.
Noah.
Nah. Good choice.
Most
though.
double doubles.
Most double doubles. It blew my mind when I was researching this.
Man, I'm such a trivia dude, man, but I don't want to eat up the shot clock. So who is it?
Paul Gasol. You just mentioned at 34 years old. I mean, I didn't know that he was having that type of season, man. He is a definite skilled big man that knows how to play the game, man. I think you mentioned it, or one of you guys mentioned it. Him going to Chicago would be a big, boost for them.
Right.
And I didn't think they would really need Paul Gasol, but man, he has really, helped them and carried them while, Rose has been hurt.
Which is why, and like you said, and that's what I'm talking about, his skill as a big man, his mid-range game, he does just enough rebounding offensively and defensively. Like we said a few weeks ago when we had the Kobe Bryant discussion, Kobe messed that up. But that's a good nugget for the night, because he probably would have been the last. But I would have said Marc Gasol before Paul.
Yep. Hey, Tom Thibodeau. How you feel about it? I know we've been talking about him and possibly want to change the scenery. Do you think he's eyeing other jobs, or you think he's content being with the Bulls and want to ride it out?
Nah, I mentioned it
you did.
about maybe 5 shows ago that when I looked at him, he seemed like he was checking out. And the reports are now that he's looking at a location such as the Magic, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how that comes out, right? Going into the playoffs, how does it come out that your coach, how do they have a name attached to where he might be interested? I just told you before, I mean, he's a competitive guy, and you're going into the playoffs every year and you don't have your ace. You can't run him out there. I just feel like he's tired of that, and he's a first-time coach. So, it's at a certain point where you get labeled, as a George Karl of the world, somebody, what I'm saying? I mean, you just got to make the most of those opportunities, and I think he just wants to, while he still has a star, he wants to go and try to maximize having that star.
Yeah, I wonder will they give him like control of the team too, like more control.
You think he's a control guy?
I don't know if he's a control guy, but it looks like he wants to, coach his type of guys to me. It just seems like he want to, be around guys who are kind of like him, kind of like you said,
rough around the edges.
Like workman type guys. Right. Don't mind setting a pick, taking a charge. He probably want to take Noah with him, but that's not happening. But we'll see. Real quick, Westbrook is his actually suspension. I mean, his 16th technical foul has been rescinded, right?
Yeah, man. What you think about that, man?
Well, you know what it is. You know exactly what it is, Wood. You know what it's about. This is the second one in the last 3 or 4 weeks has been rescinded.
Right. It was just so convenient because they did it. The foul came last night. They mentioned that, he had to, they immediately came out there and floated the possibility of it being rescinded.
There we go.
And then Brooks comes out and says, I'm confident that it'll be rescinded. So while I'm at work today, I didn't even bother checking for updates. It was just like, and that's a tough spot because, in all likelihood, and based on what I saw on the screen, it didn't look like he did enough to warrant a technical unless, he said something, very sharp in a very muted way.
Exactly. So with, they're battling for the 8th seed, Westbrook. I think the Pelicans, they have Minnesota and San Antonio, and OKC who do they play? I can't think.
I thought Pelicans played OKC tonight.
Nah, the Pelicans, the days of 13.
Oh,
they played at Minnesota.
Okay, you're right.
They got San Antonio.
I'm just thinking that a loss by OKC would give, and a win by the Pelicans they would lock it up. That's what I was thinking.
You're spot on with that because OKC needs to finish ahead of the Pelicans, right? Because they had the tiebreaker,
right?
Okay.
So, right. That's what I was thinking about. All
right. I think, like you said, I'm going with you and your gut. I went kind of against you the first time, so I think the Pelicans will prevail and get the 8th seed.
I mean, at this point, wouldn't you rather? I mean, let me ask you a loaded question, but wouldn't you rather? Well, they still did it. Would you rather see OKC versus Golden State Warriors or Pelicans versus Golden State Warriors?
I just want to see what Westbrook can do. I like Westbrook, man.
Okay.
A lot of people has been, talking about he's MVP worthy, and I really believe that OKC should be a playoff team. Even that's another thing. I just think that your stars, and I know Davis is a star. Don't get me wrong, but I think OKC deserves a playoff spot. With all they've been through. But I don't know, man. I just think it's gonna be tough for them because they don't own a tiebreaker right now.
I think. I've been the president of the Russell Westbrook fan club, and he had 54 last night, career high 54 against Indiana. So, but I think, man, I'm ready for Russ to get some rest.
There we go.
And I think also Monty's done a pretty good job down there, and I just think that it's time to introduce the world to Anthony Davis, because next year he's probably gonna be projected to be in the top 3 of the most valuable player, campaign or race for the whole season. And I think it's just time to introduce the world, to get him in the playoffs and let the world see what this guy is doing down there, because he's affecting the game probably in more ways than any other player in the league right now.
Yeah.
Quietly.
He is. He's definitely on his way to superstardom. OKC, they end with Portland and Minnesota. So we'll see. All right, man. Another, all-star return in Indy for the Pacers. Mr. Paul George, man. We won't spend too much time on this, but that was good to see him back on the court.
Didn't he come back with some commercials too? Didn't he have new commercial or two?
Great marketing plan.
He's one of the great stories in the league, in my opinion, to get a guy to bring him in, and he goes from averaging 8 or 10 points to 15 to 18 and then to 21, almost 22 a game last year, to take big shots in the playoffs and have an effect on or have an impact on, in the series versus the Heat. The dunk on LeBron 1 or 2 years ago. I know you like that.
You know it.
But just to go out there and fight, but do it with a gentleman's, with the emotion, but still be a gentleman about it. I like the kid, man. It was great to see him come back. I think they've been undefeated since he started lacing them up too. So,
yep.
I mean, that would have been scary, to think that he was out here for USA basketball, which they often have problems getting the elite people out there, for him to go out there and have that injury and, his career be threatened, man. That's good to see him back.
There it is. Enough said on that one. Any other things going on with NBA we need to chop it up about?
Nah, man, I'm just ready. I'm like I said, I'm getting a little excited for them to kick it, to go into the postseason.
Gotcha. So let's go to Major League Baseball. I hope your guy calls in. Oh, so we're going to go with the intermission, a little break.
Wrap up our first segment.
There it is. Mr. Chuck.
What's up, guys? Chuck here with the 5th quarter. Going to get our first update of the night. Jordan Spieth won the Masters, tying the scoring mark at 18 under, and did it in a wire-to-wire fashion, not letting anybody else take the lead from him. Jason Kidd, in his first year in Minnesota, has beaten all expectations, winning 40 games, and last night in a 96-73 win over Brooklyn, clinched the 6th seed for the playoffs. And Jimmy Johnson won at Texas. It was a pretty dramatic finish down to the last couple laps. A couple guys battling for the lead. He actually blew by and ended up winning the race himself. That's it for now. Back on over to you guys.
So, Major League Baseball, let's talk about that a little bit. Got a couple teams that are starting off very hot. Got Detroit, that's near and dear to your heart.
Yes, sir.
They were undefeated. I think they may have lost today, though.
Yeah, man, they dropped one.
Sorry,
to
Wood.
to them Pirates.
Yeah, they
I think
did.
I might even have a pirate cap on right now.
I know. I should click picture.
Yeah, but anyways, for the colors.
Yeah, but Wood. So we're doing interleague play like this early in the season now. What's up with that?
I was gonna mention that because as I was packing up stuff to come over here for the show, and I looked up and I saw Detroit over PIT on the on the recap. I was like, that seems odd.
Right.
I mean, I think I would have thought that Major League Baseball would let teams get familiar with their own divisions before you go and mix in the interleague stuff. That seems a little backwards to me, but
Yeah. So speaking of Detroit, how have they been winning? Wood, are they hitting the ball? Are they getting good pitching? What's going on with them?
it's a bit of a mix. But I mean, they're up right now on runs scored. I think it's 47 to only 16 allowed. So obviously, and they beat the brakes off of Minnesota to open up the season. So they may have even outscored them like 22-2 or something in a 3-game series.
Wow.
So it's a mix. They even tried to get back in the game today after going down by 5. Miggy, I think he got a home run. I know JD Martinez got one. So it's a mix, man. I'll tell you what, 84, they went 35-5 to open the season. I'm not sure that they can do that again. But the thing is, man, trying to connect the sixth inning to the ninth is what's gonna catch them. So the bats are gonna have to be hot like that because the bullpen is just such a weakness. So, but I tell you what, Jay, man, I looked at I don't even know why I was over there, but I looked at the breakdown on the salary. Man, there's some guys making some cake over there.
Big money.
I think the guy who pitched today makes $16 million. Anibal Sanchez, I think he either makes 16 or 14. But Justin Verlander, we talked weeks ago about the quarterback Romo and what he was making this year.
Right.
Do you know what they're paying Verlander this year?
I know, but I'll let you say because I have it pulled up right now.
$28 million.
Right. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. And the thing about baseball, I hope everybody understands one thing about those contracts, right? They're guaranteed. They're fully guaranteed, if I'm not mistaken.
And you don't have to make it to training camp, next year or a certain point in the offseason to get that bonus. It's just guaranteed.
It's guaranteed cake, man. And I promise you, like I have a son and he's a left-hander, and I tried to make him a pitcher. But it just didn't work out, man. He just wasn't too much into baseball,
just
man.
Couldn't sell it.
But I tell anybody, I hope anybody who's listening, if you have a kid out there right now and he likes to pitch and he can pitch and he's left-handed, please continue to push him to play. And I don't say don't push him if he doesn't like it, but there's so much money to be made as a left-hand pitcher who has 2 or 3 pitches and can just do it at a relief level.
Right.
There's none out there. You need it. So hey, if you know one, or a son, or a little nephew, or whatever it may be, a little cousin, push them because that's where it's at. Also, Kansas City, man, 6-0.
Yeah, that's kind of what dampened my thoughts on Detroit opening up so hot was a turn right around, and there goes that man again. KC is sitting there at 6-0. We keep disregarding these guys, but
We do.
Kane is already having a nice year. He's hitting over 400. Oh, I meant to mention, as my coworker pointed out to me today, he said congratulations on your 4 or 5 guys hitting over 500. But Kane is hitting like right at 486 right now and playing a heck of a center field. So I was hoping that those guys it was just a flash in the pan last year. But man, I think they're gonna be around all season once again.
Yeah, Kansas City, one thing about them, and I know we talked about them last year when they were making their run, they play baseball the way it's supposed to be played, man. They play hardwood. They're steady, putting pressure on the defense when they're on the base paths. They're just strictly, playing solid, sound baseball. I'm going to hit and run. If I need to bunt to get somebody over, I'm going to do it, and somebody's going to come up and get that timely hit. if you are big into baseball and you get a chance to watch Kansas City play, please check them out because I'm telling you, they are definitely hard-nosed baseball player, and it's a pleasant sight to see.
And not only that, they don't have that issue just like the Reds and the Tigers. That connecting the sixth inning to the ninth inning, they don't really have that problem.
Exactly. They got some guns. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say another thing because I caught another highlight on the way. It was almost, I don't even know if it was poetic justice or just almost blasphemous almost. Boston Red Sox actually have a kid named Mookie.
They do?
Yeah, they got a kid named Mookie Betts, I think. I think he's a first-year guy. Had a home run today. I think he's got 2 on the season already. Had a heck of a game today, period. But, the Red Sox played Mookie and the Mets in '86 in that World Series that they lost. And it's just odd now, years later, to hear, Boston with their own Mookie. You would have thought as traditional as baseball is, and the curse that was on the team at that time, that would just kind of struck me like, really, a Mookie in Boston?
That's weird. That's not a good connection, but hey.
I mean, it's weird. It's another Mookie in the world,
Exactly.
period.
Exactly.
But I only know 3 Mookies.
Exactly.
Mookie on the Mets, Mookie in Sal's Pizza, Do the Right Thing, and this Mookie. That's the only 3 I know.
Gotcha. Anything else with baseball?
No, man, I'm just glad the season is here. Trying to make it out to a couple games myself. I think it is very early. So, really quick, I know we can veer off for a minute, but any thoughts on the way that Moreno, I believe it is Artie Moreno, the owner of the Angels, he taking it pretty serious with Josh Hamilton and his drug issue and his relapse and all that. You think that's fair? Because a big part with them is they're not happy with that guaranteed money, and they have several years left on that deal, and it just seems like they're trying, to get from under it if possible.
Yeah, and that's kind of like I said, shocking, because I look at it like this. I just think that if you work at the hospital, or if you work at the bank, well, maybe not the bank, but the hospital, or a factory worker, or whatever you may do construction, you have some issues, some substance abuse issues. Don't you get help and get a chance to go to rehab and to get yourself, back on the right track? Don't you at least get that one opportunity?
Right. I think this is his first time. I think he might have had a drinking incident since being in Anaheim, but it wasn't drugs, I thought.
Yeah, well, everybody drinks,
right? I'm sure, whatever. But yeah, you think you get a second chance?
I would think so, man. I just think that a lot of these teams, understand that you're professional, and we're big on professional, and you got to be a specialist in what you do, and you have to know how to act and how to take care of yourself. But I really believe like he has an addiction. He has a problem,
a very bad one too,
and he needs to get that support from his employers, as well as he's probably getting from his family. So, we can get him and get him back better, because it becomes a time. You already made the investment in this guy, and I'm not the kind of person just to throw a person to the wayside when they make some mistakes and some issues. Now, if they make them multiple, then that's something different. But like I said, if he was Joe Dawkins that, worked at a certain factory, he would get opportunity to go to rehab and try to better himself and get some help, so he can come back and, be a good, productive employee for the company. But I think a lot of people think that since these guys make millions and millions of dollars, that, they're invincible when they're on the field or the court. But a problem or an addiction can affect anybody, and you just need that same kind of support and time and commitment from your employer as you would if you were just a regular person.
I guess Moreno is like, that's why I don't have any janitors that make $60,000 a year.
He just killed me.
No, but to your point, these guys, females and men and women, I think, we can't, just because of the money that they make or the the deals that they have, the endorsements, the lifestyles that they lead, we can't then turn around and not give them any margin for error.
I agree, man. I agree, definitely. All right, man. Anything else with baseball?
No, man, like I said, I'm just the Reds were a little disappointing in the series over the weekend versus St. Louis, but that's going to be they got 19, 20 some games to work that out.
Gotcha. Hey, Wood, you ever did some golfing? You like golf?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, I keep saying every year I'm gonna get out there and go to the range, but it just never works out. And I'm probably not gonna get out there, man. That's probably gonna be one sport that I just don't get into. And I'm not even. I know I put it on the list, for today's topics. We're gonna breeze through it because I'm not gonna sit here and embarrass myself and sound like a fool.
But yeah,
that's something you plan on doing?
We talked about it, man. And I've been wanting to go take the class at Sinclair, the golfing class,
right?
And learn a little bit because we're both competitive guys,
right?
And I'm not the kind of guy to go out there and play with some of our peers and get totally embarrassed or be that one who's holding up the group. You know what I'm saying? With hitting the ball all around the place, all on the course.
That's one thing that turned me off because when I talked about going with some people, they said, well, when you get to 5, 6, 7 strokes, you just need to pick the ball up and just move along.
There we go. That's what they say.
And I'm like, nah, man, I'm gonna eventually putt and it's gonna go in the hole. But they was like, nah, you just need to move on with the party. So that kind of turned me back.
I know, man. But I'll tell you one person who was definitely on his game this past weekend was 21-year-old Jordan Spieth. Am I pronouncing that? Spieth. Jordan Spieth wins the Masters, man. Second youngest player to ever win the Masters.
You golf, Chuck?
I've been to driving ranges a few times. I've never really gone out to a course and play.
Okay.
Me and the girlfriend are thinking about trying a course down in Florida.
Okay.
Down over this summer.
Okay.
That'd be nice, man.
At least one of the three of us then has some actual golf experience then.
No doubt. So young Jordan, 21, he's definitely has taken the golfing world by storm. I believe this is his second win this year.
Yeah, second win this year.
And he has two other top 2 finishes, maybe.
Yeah.
Or we finished top 2 last year in the Masters.
Right, he runner up last year. In his first 8 rounds of golf at Augusta, he's under par.
Wow.
And I don't even think it's like 2 under par. I mean, he's like might be 8 or 9 under par or something for his first 8 appearances there. So that was impressive, man. I mean, it was wire to wire, and I actually tuned in yesterday trying to do something different. I told Chuck yesterday I didn't realize that the rest of the sports calendar kind of shut down for the Masters because I was looking for some NBA games.
Yeah.
And I think they were only on NBA TV, but the kid, I saw very early that he didn't have any intentions of giving any room to the field, and I looked at Lefty. He came out and tried to do his thing, Mickelson, and it seemed like the more he pressed, the more he got in trouble. And then actually I really tried to tune in to see Tiger and Rory being paired together. And after 4 holes, man, that was so it was so non-dramatic that I was like, man, that was my experience with golf for the year.
Right. Yeah, man, that Jordan is definitely did a great thing with winning the Masters. I know he has a story that I watched this morning on Good Morning America. I guess his sister has autism.
Okay.
And he has a little charity that he does, and in honor of his sister, and also all of the people who suffer with autism, in his under his charity work. He just wanted to pay tribute to those guys, and definitely his sister. And I think it was a great story, and we can appreciate that. 21 years old, winning the Masters, and
youngest to do it.
Yeah, next to Tiger was the youngest.
He beat him by a couple of months.
Oh, I thought Tiger was the youngest, but maybe
we can fact check it. But I thought he became the youngest to do it.
Yeah, I thought Tiger was the youngest, but anyway,
it's only a couple months either way.
There it is. But at 21 years old to be, with a movement that's like that, I think that's a great thing, something to look up to for some of these younger kids and younger generations. Seems like he has his mind, definitely screwed on the right way. So that was definitely a good story, as we, get through the Masters and go through the golf season.
I would also say, man, that he did set the 36 hole and the 54 hole records for lowest scores, as well as hitting 19 under to be the first man to hit that, and tied Tiger's 18 under to finish. But what I'm getting at, man, I looked at it. It's a lot of guys it's a lot of younger guys on the court on the tour that I think I'm hoping that I know a lot of black kids, male and female, got into the game because after seeing Tiger get out there, and I think it's enough cooler looking guys. I mean, I didn't mean that in a stereotypical way, but what I mean is, it's a lot of cool stuff going on in the game to still kind of, even though it's a slower game, it seems like I saw some personalities that could, Johnson was one of them. The Rose guy, he was pretty slick looking, but it's some personalities that could still appeal to a wider audience and possibly put some new kids in the pipeline. And I'm excited to see what happened to it. On a insignificant note, Michael Jordan actually has a golfer on Team Jordan or Brand Jordan, and man, this cat named Bradley Keegan had on some red and white Jordan golf shoes. They were all right. They caught my eye.
Look good, huh?
They look good. He had on the red pants and white and red shirt with the red bill. I just keep thinking about Cedric the Entertainer, on Kings of Comedy, talking about the brothers at the golf course, man. And it was like, if we could wear Jordans out there.
Exactly.
So it was a good. I said it was a little disappointing because Tiger really didn't. Like I said, through the first 4 or 5 holes, man, him and Rory really didn't get it going. I think Rory did get a birdie at like 4 or 5, but it was kind of over with before it began.
Yeah, definitely. I know Tiger Woods has, made a comment maybe yesterday about, he thought that as long as I'm not going to say it verbatim, but as long as the course was, was a very long course,
right,
and the length of it, he didn't think people would be scoring that low.
Typically.
But he thought that they did keep the greens or the course very soft. So, if it's soft, it's easier for the ball to land, right. Correct? Is that, am I correct with that?
Yeah, on some of the hits that I saw when guys went past the cups, past the holes, and got to some precarious areas, it didn't make them pay like I would have expected. So that sounds like a good assessment.
And you know what, Tiger, kudos to him because, I think they were probably trying to compare, what this kid just done, the other day to what he did, back when he tore up the golf course. So right. I ain't mad at that, man. And speaking of Tiger, you think he's back?
I thought it was a good showing. I thought it was a good sign. I thought it was a pretty good sign for him that, his 15th major could come at some point. Yesterday, I think he missed this one shot off the tee at I think it was the 3rd hole, and it was kind of downhill for him from that point on. I just feel like it's gonna take more than him just playing the big ones and then practicing. I think he's actually gonna have to play in a couple, and he might be like Floyd now. I'm strictly pay-per-view material. I'm not trying to sit over here at the Honda Classic and the Buick this and all that stuff. And, I'm just looking, I'm looking for the big fish. And I just think, just like any shooter, I think he needs to see the ball go in the hole quite a bit. And I just don't think you can replicate that on the practice course.
Yeah, definitely. I agree, man. Tiger just needs, like you said, he needs some reps, got to get back out there, get the competition, flowing and have to make some adjustments with his game on the fly. And I think he should be okay. It looks like his stroke or his swing is getting to where it needs to be. Tiger was known for, getting to the green so quickly. I don't, my little golf talk. But anyway, he's known to get into the greens very quickly and not having a bunch of, 2 and 3 putts. So when Tiger can clean up that part of his game and get back dominant to get into those greens, I think he will be back where he needs to be. I will say this. He wasn't that far away from, the top of the leaderboard. I think he finished 19th or 16th?
He was in the top 20. I think it was 16.
So he's in the top 20. I think for a guy who didn't decide, publicly that he was going, playing the Masters till late, I think he served himself well.
Of course, by his 90s, the bar, where he raised the bar back then, of course it pales in comparison to that. But like you said, to come out of off of injury and be over on the side playing and practicing, getting his game together, and to come back and be there with the paired with the top guy in the world on the final day. I mean, that's not a bad run.
I don't think so at all. So, man, just moving along with the agenda. Anything else with golf?
I will say, man, out of how we talk every sport that we participate in or we follow, there's a certain talk about the game and the conditions or the difficulties or when they go to the combine, they say it was a fast track out there versus running outdoors and all that stuff. I will say that golf talk is probably the most interesting talk of all, of breaking down everything.
Yeah, the thing about golf talk, I think golf in general, I know I always say I think it's relaxing, but they say it's not relaxing, so get off yourself, Jay. But it just seems like it's great to be out there on a course. Now you got the Jordans, you can wear the Jordans.
Polos.
Your pants are creased. I mean, you crispy, you know what I'm saying? And
would you go with the Knickerbockers? Well, that wouldn't be you.
Maybe one day. It just matters how you feel with golf, don't it? I mean, you can be yourself. If you wake up feeling a certain way, you can do it. They wear the nicest belts. Their belts are always so just clean and leather belts.
But see, you just did it right there. See, I don't really have, my belt isn't always visible right now.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. I need to get that long and lean, leaner look so that my belt shows out, is visible at all times. Right now, I'm probably pulling my polo out a little bit over my belt to hide some things. So I'm not course ready right now.
You already know. Who's that? Jim Daly? Is that
right. I'm on the daily routine.
Me too. You hit the nail on the head with that one. But I think that golf is great. I think they have some of the beautiful, their wives are beautiful. Their kids can be right there on the course when you finish the finish line. I think it's great, man. I think it's a good look.
That was a confusing thing to me. It was I don't know if it was hole 6. It was one of the holes yesterday where it was a 30-foot drop or something off from the tee down to the cup, and you couldn't even see down there. But on that grade right there, all the fans were sitting there. So the ball flies over them as it goes down to the actual green. I thought that was pretty slick. I don't know how they manage, the crowds in the gallery. That's kind of slick how they do that with it not being a fixed stand, like in NASCAR or, football where you have fixed stands. So that's kind of neat how they do that.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely, man. Golf is a huge thing. And I always say if Tiger's back, he's competitive and he's playing, on Saturday and Sunday. It's just better for the rest of the, the field.
It is.
Definitely. Boxing. Have some good boxing matches, take place over the weekend. I'm going to let you go ahead and kick it off with some of that boxing talk you have. Hopefully we get some of those calls that we got, last week. I thought they were very informative, but had a couple good matches. Let's I'm going to have you break them down for us.
So the PBC, the Premier Boxing Champions, they had another card. I think they're second on NBC, back on network TV. And one fighter that's up and coming in that welterweight division was Errol Spence Jr. He got a KO, I believe, in the 3rd or 4th round. But the card was kind of marred by the fact that Peter Quillen, Kid Chocolate, didn't make weight. for a middleweight fight. Then they asked him to go back and wanted him to lose 2 more pounds to even have the fight. So that fight was it was in jeopardy as far as being included on the card. And in an earlier bout, Andy Lee, who fought Peter Quillin this weekend, he fought a puffed up Chavez Jr. And he got battered in that fight, fighting somebody who didn't make weight. And so it was already criticism over the feature bout, which was Danny Garcia from Philadelphia and Lamont Peterson from DC, because they were already fighting at a catch weight. So their belts, each of them holding belts, no belt was on the line. So for the average fan, it's just like, why are these fights being made when nobody has anything to lose? But the fights did happen. Quillin dropped Andy Lee in the first and second round, I believe. And I thought Lee fought a bad fight strategically. But he came back and dropped Quillin for the first time in his career. And then also he went on and made coming back from 2 early knockdowns, ended up the fight being a draw. That was controversial. And then in the second fight, between Peterson and Garcia, Peterson just really came in with a game plan and with a lot of movement involved, and he got criticized for it. They ended up fighting to a draw too. Garcia was very beat up in that fight. I don't know if you got a chance to see it.
I saw that one.
You saw that one?
I saw that one.
What'd you think?
The thing about it was, I thought, now correct me if I'm wrong, I know you're a little bit more technical than me. Seems
Not
like
really.
Peterson was he kind of like trying to delay the action a little bit to try to get Garcia to the later rounds in the fight, and it just looks like, in my opinion, I thought Peterson may have won the fight. Maybe I was wrong.
I'm not gonna argue with you.
I thought Peterson actually won the fight. I thought he landed the cleaner shots. I thought he came in there with a game plan, and he actually took advantage of his game plan, definitely towards the later rounds. I think what happened was, do you think that last round, for instance, who won that last round? Do you think if Peterson maybe would have boxed a little bit more and stayed away a little bit more, he would have won the fight and let Garcia steal that last round and maybe make it,
That's a good point. And I apologize because I didn't really take notes. I was just trying to watch it. I didn't even do a lot of tweeting.
Right.
I just think fans in general and the public, we don't respect movement, and we don't respect strategy, and we don't respect somebody winning a fight with distance.
Amen.
And I think it's pitiful that Peterson is being called a runner when your strategy, like you said, his strategy was to take some of Garcia, maybe possibly a heavier puncher, was to take some steam off of his punches, be slick, move, dance around, land some shots, get in and get out, and like I said, get to the later half of the fight and then mix it up. And I think he did all that. I just think it's tough, man, because now they're saying Garcia has been given like 2 or 3 gift decisions, and one being with Herrera down in Puerto Rico. And then it was evident after the fight, Garcia was banged up, and Lamont really wasn't. So I was hoping some of the guys would call in and follow up with their predictions that they had before the fight. Overall, man, I thought it was a great card. Some people were mad that they ended in draws. Let me ask you a question, and we can get off of boxing, leave room for if anybody calls. But do you think there should be a 13th round, like an overtime round? That's what some boxing sites were suggesting on social media, was like there be an overtime round. Would that make any sense in the world to you?
Nah, because your whole training camp, training camp, you all about, I got to get to 12 rounds. So my point is, when do you tell the boxers that it's going to be an overtime round? I mean, do you tell them after the 12th round, like, it's a draw and you got to go to another one? I mean, how do you, because I know with, playing football, your adrenaline is running, you're up for the game, and when it's over, you just relax and you exhale. I can only imagine being on that up in that boxing ring, how your adrenaline is running and how you got your mind frame set for a certain number of rounds and minutes, and now you're telling me I have to go. You can't do that with that sport right there. That's a whole different ballgame. This isn't basketball. This isn't football. And this is boxing. It's totally different.
I think the threat of it, and I commented on this on those sites, I think the threat of a draw should be enough to motivate a corner and his fighter to go all out and avoid a draw. You know, either you don't leave it in the judge's hands or you clearly beat your man. And I think in both of these fights, I think Quillin turned it on and off quite a bit. And I think Lee, he did so much pawing with his jab in the first 5, 6, 7 rounds. Like he didn't want to just use his jab as an offensive weapon. He was just kind of trying to find Quillin for the one shot. And I see so many fighters get down big on cards just looking for that one shot. And then in the Peterson thing, in the Peterson Garcia, I just feel like it's because Canelo and Erislandy. They said Erislandy ran from Canelo the whole time, but I just, when you're fighting somebody that's a bigger puncher, man, you gotta have a plan that will allow you to be in the fight. In the 8th, 9th round.
You gotta survive, man.
And I felt like when I was listening to the early connections of Garcia, the booms from his punches was way more noticeable or audible than Peterson. So I just thought like Peterson and his camp, because like I said, most of the fighters nowadays, they can't stick to a game plan.
Right.
So, here's a team that had, and this is when camps and fighters actually say me and my team, I think that game planning and strategy is really team based. Not only the one player has to go in there and execute it.
Definitely.
But yeah, man, I thought it was a good card. I think America needs to get off of the no game can end in a tie. Like you said, these people are out here putting their body in harm's way. And if there's no decision at the end of the day, that's not the worst thing in the world.
No, it's not. It's not. It's definitely not. It's nothing wrong with like you saying, having a draw and not winning a fight or not losing a fight. It's just a draw.
Maybe there was no clear cut loser, so you don't put a loss on anybody's record just because I had to pick a winner. Now both of those camps, they have a decision. All 4 of those camps, they can make the decision to come back and do it. Do it for real. I mean, do it with the rematch.
Yeah, man, because you can go into, let's say, the 10th, 11th, and 12th round, and you can really be down in a fight. But if you close the show and, you definitely, win those rounds easily and you score and you end up with a draw, you're probably happy with it. Because if you be in the ring in the first 7 or 8 rounds, you're getting handled.
Right.
You know what it is.
Now glad that you mentioned that. There was some footage that came out where Garcia told Peterson under his breath that I lost. I didn't really listen to it. I saw him having a lot of discussion at the end of the fight. But Peterson was he was a real gentleman in the press conference. He said he didn't want to get into the whole, did they steal one from me? He was like, look, this is just a game of boxing. He was like, I'm healthy. I made it out alive and, can go be with my daughter, continue raising my child. And he said, he felt confident in what he did. He really appreciated the fact or commended himself for being able to stick to the plan that his trainer, I think it's Hunter, that they put together. And, if he can take it like that, I think the fans can take it like that. I do think the book is probably open on Garcia now,
It is.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny. Another thing that's crazy is if you look at the triangle between Matisse, Garcia, and Peterson all fighting, the mixed results in those fights, because Matisse just ran through Peterson.
He did.
But hey, I think in Kay Jones from Cincinnati mentioned it last night and even last week, and even Devin from Detroit, that I think it was good for boxing.
I think it was. So, just looking ahead, is Garcia ready to make the jump to 147? I know he probably, wants to go up there because of his weight. He probably, it's hard for him to, what is it, 140?
40. He's at 40 now.
He's at 40.
He's going to 147.
You think he's ready for that jump to fight the top fighters at 147?
Seeing him in one-time Thurman, one person at the event that called him out immediately after the fight was Rene Marcos Maidana. El Chino was like, look, can't nothing save him versus me. And then again, we have Chino fought Amir Khan. Amir Khan fought Amir Khan and Chino fought, and then Amir Khan and Garcia fought.
Right.
So that wouldn't be a bad scrap. But him at 147, I mean, you just gonna go up there and get in line because, with Floyd having one more fight left and the big fight coming in 20 days, 19 days or something.
Right.
I don't know what opponent Garcia could, and now knowing what we know about him, that could be interesting.
How about my one guy that fought maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago with the braids? Who he just going there, he throwing them bombs, with
braids.
Oh my! Is it one time? What's his name?
Oh, Keith Thurman. That beat Guerrero.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I think Garcia's body is just way. Do you see how skinny he looks?
Where's his weight at though? That's what I understand.
That's what he don't have a big calves.
Right, because you can see his weight.
Right. He's a slender guy, so I couldn't imagine him really taking body shots from somebody like Keith Thurman. Now I think Porter's already up at 47, so maybe Porter would be good. Somebody like Kell Brook over in England might be good for. Although I think all those guys are just bigger than him. Like you made a great point. I don't know where Garcia carries his weight because he's a real slender guy.
Yes, sir. Anything else with boxing? I hope we get some calls, man, with that boxing because I'm telling you, those guys were very informative last week. Yeah. So, we'll see what goes on. But right now, we're going to take another break. Got Chuck coming in with some updates.
Chuck here again for the fifth quarter. I'm going to hit you with some entertainment news. Start things off, Wale topped the Billboard charts last week with his album titled The Album About Nothing. And as a Wale fan, I'm pretty excited, looking forward to checking that one out. Kanye West and Kim Kardashian were over in Europe and Armenia, and Kanye decided to play a free concert. It was around a swan pool. He ran into the middle of the pool, trying to get closer to the other side, which led to all of the fans swarming him in the middle of the pool, which led to police shutting the concert down, and security had to fish him out of the middle of that. Also, Drake was playing at Coachella. He was playing his set, and out of nowhere, Madonna came out, and she played one of her songs, and then she ripped open her outfit and had a Big as Madonna shirt on, which I read was a reference to a Drake song off of his latest CD, and she actually ended up playing a pretty passionate kiss on him, and said some things that I'll let you guys read. But that's it for your entertainment break for the night. Back on over to you guys.
All right. Just cover some NBA, some Major League Baseball, golf, and boxing. Have some great, halftime breaks or, some interlude breaks from Mr. Chuck. Now we're going to NFL football. Troy Polamalu is definitely considered one of the Steeler greats. He's just retired. Announced his retirement. How you feel about old Troy? I know he was on pace to being considered one of the best safeties, maybe the best safety of all time, but injuries kind of derailed his career. What you think about old Troy P?
I'm kind of getting a feel for it because I know he's wreaked some havoc, on your Bengals over the course of his 12-year career when he wasn't injured. I don't know. I didn't think we could really get into a full-fledged or full-scale debate, on the first take style on this. I'm cool with Troy, man. I think it was 2 or 3 seasons where I watched Troy and I felt like I was watching a all-time player, and he was affecting games from the safety position in a way that I just hadn't seen. And I don't always, the defensive impact of different players doesn't always jump off the screen at me unless it's somebody and that's usually every season 1 or 2 guys will have a game where they have 3 or 4 sacks, like JPP and the guy out there in Frisco, Jared Allen, one of those guys will have a 3-sack game. But to see, like I said, Polamalu do what he was doing from the safety position and, jumping over the center and sacking a quarterback on a 4th and 1, getting different interceptions, tackles for losses, forced fumbles. He just seemed to do a lot of stuff, man. And I think, I don't know, because I heard people bringing up Ronnie Lott, Kenny Easley was another all-time safety.
Yep.
Dawkins is out there. It's a number of different guys. Ed Reed, obviously. What do you think, man? You the football guy, man. I don't want to step on no toes. I think he was a pretty daggone good guy, good player.
Troy was a beast. The only thing with Troy with me is, when you think of Hall of Fame, and we talked about this in the past, it's just so hard to make the Hall of Fame. I think Troy Polamalu will make the Hall of Fame. Is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? I don't think so.
Ooh. Because
the reason why is just he had too many injuries. I think he only played maybe 3 or 4 seasons where he played the whole season.
Yeah. Probably be hard pressed to find the 4th one.
Yeah.
Unless the 4th one came this past year when he really didn't have that impact that you expect.
So, and then, I think there's only like 24 defensive backs who actually made the Hall of Fame, period.
That's it?
That's all. Just 24. Out of those 24, only 6 of them played the safety position. So, it's the numbers are kind of stacked up against him. And then if you think about it, for him just being a first ballot, think of all the guys who are out there who have not made it yet. So, some of those guys who's been on the ballot for 3, 4, 5 years are about to, eventually get in. Then you have another crop of, Hall of Famers are trying to get in there, like, Ray Lewis's and those type of guys. So I think it's going to be tough for Troy because when I look at a Hall of Fame,
get some calls after people hear this.
No, seriously.
No, I'm just saying that's a good thing.
But that's good. But I think a Hall of Famer, I think you have to have an extended, long career. At least 8 years. And I know he's been injured. You cannot, who knows how the injury gods will put one on you. But he just had too many injuries, and he has too much time off the field to be considered a first-time Hall of Famer from the safety position. Because if I think of you as a first ballot Hall of Famer, that means you have to be considered the best, maybe top 2 or 3 safeties of all time. Troy Polamalu is not that. I think he made a lot of plays, but he made a lot of plays that were so uncharacteristic plays where like he took a lot of chances.
Right. He was a risk taker.
So if you look at all those chances that he made, look at all the times where he kind of got himself out of position, where his team actually got hurt from the chances that he made. He's not really a speed guy, so once he's beat, he's beat. He's not like going to make up anything. He didn't have a bunch of interceptions, so he's not an interception kind of guy. Where, in my opinion, I think Ed Reed has a better chance to be a first ballot than Troy Polamalu. Just my opinion.
No, because in my opinion, two totally different types of safeties. Because Ed Reed was that ball hog.
He was a free,
and if the ball get tipped, if it should get tipped, you know where it's going.
Yes, sir.
With Ed Reed on the field, and then Ed Reed was trying to score the ball. He was kind of in that Deion ilk where he was trying to score the ball if he got it. And he wasn't a slouch. He wasn't a slouch in the in tackling either. Ed Reed,
right?
Man, you've enlightened me, man, because I was no doubt he's a first ballot guy, and I'm gonna say this. I think so because, and it may be off the field stuff in a way, but he's 2-time Super Bowl champ. 2-time Super Bowl champ. Great with the media. A God-fearing guy, a professed believer. He did the commercial game and, did just enough to show some humor. They didn't ask him to do a whole lot. But I just think he's a beloved guy. And then he's also, let's be honest, he's a minority.
Yes, sir.
They can say the first Samoan, what's his name's in the Seau.
Yep.
So anyway, I just think because of his personality and being a good, one of the good guys, I think they're gonna shed. I think they're gonna be friendly, when it comes around. Let me ask you this though. Speaking of that availability, and like you noted, if they let him in first ballot, do we have to go back and maybe consider somebody like Terrell Davis? If we looking at what Terrell did in his limited time versus just because his career was longer doesn't really mean that he played that much more ball than him.
I agree with you, man. You know how I am about. I just think you need. Hey, we got a caller coming in.
Come back to that. Good evening. You're on the line with the Fifth Quarter Show. Caller, what's your first name and where you calling from?
I'm Brandon calling out of Dayton.
Brandon, what's up, my man? What you got for us tonight?
Not much, man. I just wanted to call about the boxing that we had Saturday night.
You just missed it, so you're right on time, really. But we just kind of laid our thoughts out there, so now we can. It'll be on record that we can't bite, whatever you say. What'd you think about it, man?
I actually thought it was a fairly entertaining card. It pretty much went the way I thought it would go. I was actually glad to see judges actually score a fight what I thought was a fair score. I was excited for that card, honestly. I thought both of the fights were going to be very good fights, and I thought they were both good in different ways. I was wanting to see how Kid Chocolate was going to do with a major opponent, and he did exactly what I thought he would do, which was throw 5 punches a minute. So,
do you like him?
I actually don't. I actually think he's a poor man's Felix Trinidad. He can hurt you if he throws punches, but he probably won't throw punches.
Okay, because I've been trying to give him some love because he's what was he 30-0?
Yeah, 31. So I think 31-0. Yeah.
Right, so I was trying to give him some love and see what his game is all about, and actually I had tweeted out some stuff kind of questioning it or saying that he needed to show me something, and then within 10 seconds later he had put Lee on the ground, so I kind of I looked stupid. But to your point, man, for him to be at middleweight, I didn't like his activity.
He's not. I've said all, and I compared him to Trinidad, and I mean that simply from power.
Right.
Trinidad had the ability to put anybody down at any point of fight, but the question is he willing to exchange? Is he willing to, open himself up? Kid Chocolate, to me, is very raw, power in both hands, but there's just something that's not there. It's not natural. It's not fluid. It's not smooth. There's no science behind his boxing. He just kind of looks like a guy that, he gets the crowd boo enough times, and then all of a sudden he unload with a real hard hook. Even the average fighter would have finished that first. Oh, I'm sorry. Say again?
No, I was just saying that's a great observation. It looks like he's a guy that maybe came into the game a little late or something.
Exactly.
And it's all methodical and
very much so. Yes.
But I didn't mean to cut you off though.
Oh no, that's fine. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see how, because I'm a fan of Lee. I don't think he's a great gifted fighter as far as hand speed. He's tall with skinny legs, and I've always thought if he gets caught with a clean shot, it's over. And had that been probably 5 other guys in that division, he would have been out in the second round. But once again, and what's ironic about it, I actually scored the fight, and it's funny because, like I said, I usually find myself not scoring the way that the judges score. I actually thought it was a draw, but I was thinking to myself, how ironic had they not called the second knockdown when he was standing on his foot. If they would have called that a slip, Andy Lee wins that fight.
That's
And
what I tweeted out.
You tweeted that he would have won the fight?
That's what I tweeted out, like, in the second half of the fight. I said that full knockdown was going to come back and be a deciding factor in the fight.
It absolutely did.
And it sure enough, like you said. But the one thing, one of the referees bucked against the judge. The referee. One of the judges bucked against the referee and didn't score it as a 10-8 round. Do you think that was within? Do you think that was right, or do you
can. You can do that. You can get knocked down. Oh, is that not the way that was in New York?
It's on a state by state basis.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the commission. Okay. Well, if that was wrong, then, but I don't know that part. But I think more judges should score a fight. I have a problem with some fights. I think that there's a lot of fighters, especially the second fight, for example. Lamont Peterson, every time that guy went for the 10 seconds, he ran the last 10 seconds of the first at least 9 rounds. And I sat here and I said, in boxing, these judges have 3 minutes to score a round. I would be willing to bet a lot of judges make a lot of those decisions in those last 10 seconds. And for him to run the last 10 seconds of the first 8 or 9 rounds, I said, who knows what he just gave away? And he ended up losing the fight. And I kept thinking, you could have a strong first 230, and that last 30, you caught with 2 or 3 solid shots. Then the last 10 seconds you run, and the judge looks at it and says, oh, he must have been hurt. So I thought that was bad on his behalf.
It's funny you say that because Sugar Ray was on the call, and, Marvelous Hagler said that that's how Sugar Ray beat him, was in them last 10 or 12 seconds.
But that's the last thing they see. Yep.
Right. It makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
And for him to lose that fight, it really didn't make sense to me anyway. He came in weighing 22 more pounds than he did at the weigh-in, and then he ran, I won't say ran. He effectively avoided contact for the first 6 rounds. I think he won maybe round 4, but for the first 6 rounds, he didn't want to exchange, he didn't want to, and I'm thinking, you're 22 pounds heavier than you were on the weigh-in. Why are you out here fighting this fight? And then, you're ultimately putting the fight in the judge's hands, because the odds aren't there for a knockout after round 6, not round 7, round 8. It just doesn't happen that often. But I was pretty happy with it. I hope that Danny Garcia really thinks about what he said, talking about we'll do a rematch at 147. He has no future at 147. I don't know if boxers get lazy. I don't know if it's really, I've never had to cut weight, so I couldn't tell you how strenuous, but you hear a lot of guys talk about it, and I would hope that he'd learn from Broner that when you stop getting knockouts, the answer isn't to go up in weight, where the guys are bigger, stronger. I really just hope that he thinks about that.
We just kind of talked that we were wondering where does he carry his weight, because we feel like he's a very slender guy, and that's what I just said, that I couldn't see him taking punishment from Keith Thurman or Kell Brook or, too many of these guys, because he's a really slender guy. Yeah,
and he probably would, honestly, if he threw his name in at 147, he probably would get Floyd next. Floyd would look at him and say, this is a Marquez all over again. He hit Peterson flush probably 4 or 5 times. And I honestly don't believe Peterson's legs ever wobbled, buckled. Is it Maltese? Is that the guy that knocked Peterson out in the second round? I believe so. Every shot he hit Peterson with, his legs buckled. Amir Khan hurt him numerous times. Early, he didn't have the power late in the fight, but early in the fight. And I think Garcia is a good fighter. I'd like to see him stay at 140. Maybe let Terrence Crawford get 1 or 2 fights in at 140.
That was my next question, actually. Let me get your reaction to this, and then we're going to try to move on to some other calls. That was perfect timing, my next comment, based on the size. What do you think Bud Crawford would do versus Danny Garcia at 140?
After seeing how Peterson fought him, one thing about Crawford, he's in the phone booth with you. I mean, he has that, I'm going to get hit, and I'm going to wake up after you hit me, and I'm going to sting you back. I don't know, the last 2 fights I've seen, the last 2 fights I've seen, 2 of his last 3, Garcia seems like he's not the same. The guy that fought Zab Judah was aggressive, he was sharp, he was intelligent, he didn't do a lot of wild, lined-up punches. The guy I've seen in these last couple fights gets frustrated and puts himself at risk a lot. Peterson caught him with some flush shots, and he doesn't have power.
Right.
He stepped in there with Crawford. It could very well be the first time that we see him really get beat down. I mean, I'm just saying, over the course of a fight, I would probably go with Crawford, having seen the last 2 Garcia performances I've seen. I wasn't really impressed with his discipline. He just, there was a couple times when he was looking at Peterson saying, let's just fight. And I'm like, you're a boxer too. Cut the ring off.
He did
hit him in the body.
Well at all.
Not at all. He followed him. I'm just like, it just was frustrating. And he does that wind up when he throws his hooks. And Peterson not being a power puncher, you saw what it did to Lee. When he went through that wind up, he got caught with that hook. If he got in there with a really good puncher, it might be a really brutal beating for him. And I think Crawford is skilled enough, patient enough to do that. So that would be what I think would happen.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in. We were looking to get some reactions from somebody besides us, man. We're going to try to get in a couple other calls and see if we can continue that discussion.
Absolutely, man. Y'all have a good one. Thanks for taking my call again.
Thanks for checking in. Yeah, so we just took a little boxing call. I didn't know if calls would come in tonight, us being on a Monday instead of a Wednesday. But, Jay, I'm gonna defer to you, man. I mean, like, you just put me on to something new, questioning him. Oh, that's where you were at, was, and I'll shut up. But with the limited time for Terrell Davis and the limited time in a lengthier career, year-wise, for Polamalu, do you think if Polamalu gets in there that we possibly have to take a look at somebody like Terrell Davis and a Sterling Sharp?
Yeah, man. Like I said, well, it's here it is with Troy. If Troy could have had 2 more seasons, like you just mentioned.
Fair point.
I think he was Hall of Famer, first ballot, hands down.
Fair point. But
I'm looking at some of his, he's making the Pro Bowl each year. He was making it and he wasn't even playing. He would just, by the popularity vote, things of that nature. Hey, we got another call, man. It's all about, being patient.
Hey, good evening. First name.
Tony Gomes. Tony.
Tone, what's going on, man? What you got for us tonight?
Oh, man, just want to try to, you guys are the guru of these sports debates. Always good just to chime in. Get your take on various topics.
You still there?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. What's up with those San Antonio Spurs peaking at the right time?
I've been on the Spurs big the last 4 or 5 weeks, and I was, very, very critical of them, a month and a half ago when they looked a little listless, looked a little dead in the water. So, I'm excited, man. I think a team. One thing that I said from the very first episode, if Jay remembers, was that no team in the NBA goes somewhere for the first time and wins. And I just think if we have a showdown, it'll be in the finals, in the Western Conference Finals. But if you get Golden State there versus the Spurs, I think that's great.
I think that could be easily. Exciting as the West was last year, because it's definitely, obviously, it's no brainer, the stronger Western Conference over the Eastern Conference. But some of those series last year were just as good as the NBA Finals. And I
exactly.
Is Golden State going to take the torch from San Antonio, or do the San Antonio Spurs and the old KD veterans have now turned it over to Leonard? Do they have one more run in them? I mean, Clippers got the third best record in the West after the All-Star break. Are they due to get some of their limelight? So I'm really excited about the West Coast. I do want to see, I know you and I touched on it earlier, I would love to see OKC in the first round, get that 8th spot. To see Westbrook, put the team on his back and probably get swept or lose 4-1. I think it'd be more exciting than the Pelicans.
Let me ask you, do you think, just to jump in on the Golden State and the Spurs, I think one of the key components to them being successful is a good series from Draymond Green. Do you think that the bigs, the number of bigs that the Spurs could throw at Draymond, do you think he could get nullified? I mean, his impact, because he's gonna have to play.
Yeah,
he's gonna have to do a lot on defense that could take away from his offensive contribution.
I think Draymond Green is below the radar, because Golden State has so many weapons that he's definitely not the one to go to double team. So he's been knocking down a three enough just to keep you honest. He's very active, and he plays with a lot of confidence. Like, he has no worries in the world because there's no teams out there who are catering their defense to Draymond Green, so he's kind of freestyling. Here's where I think Golden State can slip up in the playoffs. Pat Riley said years ago, he said you start 5, you go 6, and you play 7 as far as the playoff minutes. And I'm curious on whose minutes gets cut with Golden State, because Lee, his numbers has been diminishing. Bogut has been hurt a lot. So I'm curious to see how does Steve Kerr adjust to the playoffs with that deep roster and whose minutes gets cut and how.
And to your point, I think that's where they get tripped up. Like I just said, this would be the first time that Golden State is getting that far in the postseason. And I just feel like from what you just said, I just don't see Steve Kerr, as great as he is, I don't see him figuring that out. And then also I think I'm also kind of questioning somebody like Klay.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and I feel like they're going to rotate Kawhi on and off between Klay and Steph. And that could be problematic for the flow that Golden State likes to get. And I think when you
agree. I agree. And Vashawn Leonard, I mean, he's like the glove. He's the core, whatever little nickname they got for him.
Exactly.
It's going to be fun to watch. Real quick, I want to touch on the East. Was the Cavs were they sinking a little bit to ensure that Boston gets the 7th seed, so they don't have to face the Nets? They're trying to ensure that Boston got that 7th spot by losing to them twice in 1 week. I know they had the excuse of resting their starters, but I still think it's an easy matchup for Cleveland and Boston, vice Cleveland and the Nets. And I'm also curious to see who Chicago plays in the first round. They flip-flop with Toronto these last couple games. They could easily face Washington in the first round. And I bring this up because it seems like the West is being talked about by the matchups, but no one's really speaking on the Chicago Bullets or Washington matchup, and with the young man from Atlanta Hawks that got his leg broke. A follow?
Right.
He's
we actually hit. Go ahead.
Is he out for the season?
Yeah. We talked about it earlier with Washington versus Chicago. I think that would be a pretty good series, and I think Chicago would advance in that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that might wake them up. I think that might be a tough, matchup that actually wakes them up to go further.
Got you. I can see that. And I'm worried about Atlanta because Atlanta, like San Antonio, wins by committee. And then like a fine-tuned engine. So I'm curious to see how they stand the pressure in losing a key role player going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's why, Tone. I think that's why nobody's really that big on the eastern side of it, is because it's probably just gonna come down to, the referees get involved every postseason, man, and I just feel like the league will feel better with Cleveland representing the eastern side of it. And however it works out, I just feel like at the end of the day, I think Cleveland is going to be the last team standing on the East.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm excited. I feel I 110% on that, because we all know they do kind of have their hands in the pot. But I'm looking forward to the West. I'm going to have my popcorn pop. I'll be posted by. And looking forward to an exciting series, man, just in time with March Madness.
Well, look, we made a comment earlier, Tom, was that three of the four opening round series, and you mentioned Clippers being one of the top teams since the All-Star break. 3 of the 4 series last year went 7 games. Do you think that's a repeat?
Absolutely. I think the West is even gotten even tougher from last year. Not a lot, but a tad bit. And I expect a repeat from last year. And I think some of the playoffs and the matchups, or the overtime games, you just mentioned going 7. I think it's going to be a wild NBA playoff. And I think it's a game of matchups, whoever peaks at the right time. And most of all, this was one of the first seasons where there's a lot of pressure on these coaches to overcome and make adjustments with everyone being so evenly matched. I think it was the first time where coaches are going to be magnified more so loud than ever before, vice talent just winning the series.
So with that point, and you saying you rather see OKC in there, if OKC went in there and got swept, do you think that they'd have to move on from Brooks?
You mean as far as I think something will have to be made. Although Brooks may buy himself another year, because you always fall back on Durant's injury as being the reason they weren't successful.
I could go for that, but I think he's kind of running out of excuses. And I'm saying, do you think he'd have to at least get one victory, to make his case look better? I mean,
I think he's on the top. I think he's on the chopping block either way. I think he's on the chopping block either way. He gets one victory, and if he gets lucky and pushes him to 6 games, I think at some point a coach loses his voice in the huddle. After a while, it starts sounding like Charlie Brown's teacher, and he's too far from that first final they made it to. So I mean, that's where you got some coaches lingering the past. The Van Gundy, the Mark Jackson. Are willing to slide back in there and giving this shot with a talented team like OKC.
Okay. Hey, thanks for checking in this week, man. I know we're a couple days earlier than our regular night, so we appreciate you taking out your time to rock with
pleasure,
us anyway.
Man. Once again, I guess I got to get back on board. I'm a little rusty right now with the time difference. I didn't get to do no research and math. I want my numbers to be a little bit better. But I got you covered next week.
Okay, Tone, man. Thanks a lot.
All right, have a good one, man.
Peace. Caller, you're on with the Fifth Quarter Show. What's your first name and where you calling from?
This is Brian White. I'm calling from Dayton, Ohio.
What's up, Brian, man? What you got for us this week?
I wanted to get your take on the NBA. In my view, it's kind of like a 4-horse race. I think Atlanta and Cleveland in the East, and kind of Golden State and San Antonio in the West. And I know there's a bunch of other teams, but I think with a 7-game series, the cream's going to rise to the top. And where we are now, it looks like San Antonio, despite their sluggish start, is really, really coming on. And I was just wondering if you thought there were really any teams that had a realistic chance of not making that the NBA Final Four.
I think how you laid it out is probably how it's likely going to happen. And I'm a big backer of the Spurs. They've been the hottest team, really been pretty dominant. But I think we can't sell Golden State short. They are going to win mid-60s, like improving by 10 or 12 games from last year. Of course, it's going to come down to their bench and their big men. So I think the Spurs are kind of positioned well. I think they really only have to go into it trying to steal one in Oakland. And I think they could really put some pressure on Golden State. Unfortunately, I mean, I think Golden State's a great story, a great team, but I just don't think, like you just said, I don't think they're set up for us. I think on a nightly basis they're great, but I think in that 7-game series, I think they can be. I think you can pick them apart with the X's and O's, in my opinion.
Now, would you now Popovich? He's a good coach, and he's done his homework. If you were Golden State, would you be, I don't want to say looking ahead, but would you really be saying, almost doing like self-scouting? What can I do differently? Is there something, because you got better players, but at the end of the day, having better players, but not a better team necessarily, what would you be trying to do to make it so that your superior talent can win?
You talking about from Golden State side?
Yeah, from Golden State side.
I think Golden State is going to have to shorten the bench because I think they're going to have their best 2 or 3 players take the bulk of the shots. I think somebody probably like Andre Iguodala, maybe even, like I said, Bogut. I think I saw last week that Bogut had his first double-double of the season just last week. And as a 7-foot guy, to me that's a little unacceptable. You're just now having your first, and I think it was only like 12 points and 10 rebounds. You know, it wasn't even like a big double-double. So I think you're going to have to, the same way that back years ago when Dallas beat Miami in the finals, they just had a hot shooting series versus Miami, and I think that's what for Golden State to beat the Spurs, it just might have to be a 6 or 7 game series where they're on fire for the entire series.
Yeah, that's kind of tough because of the adjustments. But let me ask you another question. So, who do you like in the East between Cleveland and Atlanta? Now that now neither one of us playing now. So, but like when they both had it going, though, it was probably 3 weeks ago. Atlanta beat Cleveland in Atlanta. I thought pretty handily.
Right. You know, I like to see that series. I mean, obviously Coach Bud comes from the Popovich tree, and I really like to see if the student really mastered what he learned enough to really win with it. And I don't know. I mean, to me, I don't know about Jay, but Kyrie Irving's he's kind of seemed to disappear the last 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, I just really haven't seen him have too many standout games. So I don't know. Like I said, my concern in that is that Mozgov is probably going to dominate in the big matchup. And then obviously LeBron is, he's bigger than all of Atlanta's bigs or the same size.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it also, and Kyrie's been kind of hurting a little bit. You know, I saw that they shut him down a little bit, not coming back in the second half. And how much of that is like Cleveland playing like, you know what, we're going to play our starters some because you guys paid, good money to come see us. But I think next road game, we're going to see just like we saw on Sunday where we're not playing any of our guys because we don't want them to get hurt. Maybe, something that I don't know necessarily would remedy the situation, but if you were the NBA, would you go to a series of bye weeks to let players get rest so you didn't have so much resting in April? Or what would you do, if anything, so that maybe you could get a better, because suddenly, hey, if it's a meaningful game, guys are playing. If it's not, they're sitting on the bench in street clothes.
Yeah, I don't know how you control that. I mean, honestly, I think we just in this day and age. I was looking into today's show notes and trying to look into and I'm going somewhere to go to say something, but I was trying to look at the MVP argument, and they had all these different stats, how many buckets in 48 minutes, and just a whole lot of all the analytics and all that stuff. And I just think with all the tools that are out there now and all the resources that are being used to measure and break down sports, I just don't think we can get away from not going with our gut feeling, to make decisions. And I just think all the math is there, the time and all that, they know all this. It's all broken down to specific stats that it just doesn't make sense for these guys to play, for these coaches to play some of these players when it's not necessary. And then you turn around and the mathematics backs that. So I don't know how we can get away from that.
Well, I think you could get away from it by maybe making it more necessary. I'm only talking from a fan's point of view, not really. I'm not even talking so much a TV fan. I'm talking about, like Cleveland had a lottery to go see games with LeBron, and then,
right.
You get him in, April, whatever, and, well, he's not playing because he's resting for the playoffs. And that's really it. I mean, I don't think the season's too long. I just think the way that it came out, they really only got their team together after Atlanta had too big of a lead to really make a really hard push to catch them. So the race for second was really for second. But so far as the MVP goes, I really think that, I'm thinking, Harden's saying, well, he thinks he's done enough. But I think I'm giving it to, I think I'm giving it to Steph Curry. I think he's third.
Yeah, I think with Harden's team slipping out of that second place in the West, I think it's kind of hard, even though he has a lot of the 40-point games and the 35-point games. I think all that story was great while he was in second place. But since they slipped down to fourth or fifth, I think I got to go with Steph.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, and I was watching the Spurs beat Houston. I don't know whether that was a weekend or one day last week, and I just remember the Beard. He drove the lane and got blocked by Duncan. And hey, Duncan got a lot of his arm and maybe not even any of the ball, but he just didn't have the confidence at that time to go with his jump shot. And really what makes an MVP is not how good you are when you got it going, but what you can do when you don't have it going. And when he didn't have it going, he's like, well, the only thing I can do is drive. And if you can't win a game on a drive at the end of the game, you gotta have your jump shot. And if you don't trust it, well, that's an issue. And to me, that just showed, I don't want to say indecisiveness, because it was a strong drive, but it's like, if you're not getting to the goal for a two-handed jam, you're not getting to the goal with 6 seconds left. And
point.
He's got to do something about that. But really, I mean, he'll be in the conversation for years to come. But how far can you carry your team? Because I mean, for whatever reason, in most sports, it's basically MVP is best player on the best team, or maybe if you got a couple of good teams. But once you start falling down in that fourth, fifth space, you can pretty much mail MVP. You can just wave a goodbye.
Right. Hey, let me ask you one question, and then we're gonna get off of here. And we appreciate you calling tonight. But to finish up your question earlier, do you think that by threatening or the NBA, if they were to adopt to reseed the teams or to seed the teams independent of conference, so the top 16 teams are the top 16 regardless of conference, do you think that's one way to possibly cause some of the better teams to have to continue playing their players? Because now it's not just Cleveland, against looking at Toronto and Seattle, the Celtics and New Jersey. Now you're looking at trying to get home court versus all those great teams in the West. Do you think that might help?
I think that would help a lot because you know, at the time when you look at it maybe a week and a half ago, they would have been right there in that mix fighting for maybe 2, maybe 6. And what you would really, and then it'd be more teams to fight and they would still be playing. You know, there's a risk of getting injured. I mean, that's a quantifiable risk. But I think that reseeding the teams, because that would also, I think, maybe make for a few more interesting series versus, well, you're going to have, like, you're going to have some teams in the East that maybe you're going to sneak into the second round because they're not playing anybody, whereas they might be playing a Houston, say, for example. So I think not only would it help the end of the regular season, I think it would maybe help the first round playoff series and the second round playoff series. Yeah, there'd be more travel, but everybody's got their chartered airplanes anyway. So I think that's kind of like leftover when they did a lot more train travel or whatever they used to do back in the day.
Exactly.
But when you got your private chartered plane, it doesn't matter one bit.
Exactly. Hey, well, we thank you. Maybe we solved something right there.
All right. You guys have a good night.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, so we was talking about Troy Polamalu and his chances of being a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like I said, I believe that Troy will be a Hall of Famer because, like Wood had stated, he is definitely a trendsetter. He's definitely, changed the way that the game was played from the safety position. I just don't know if he's first ballot status, and that's just because the length of his career. He had a bunch of injuries, and he never really played a full season, maybe 4 or 5 times out of his 12-year career?
Yeah, probably.
So I just think that was kind of limited, and then it brings up some of the guys like you said, Mr. Terrell Davis. He didn't really have a very long career, but he had an extremely productive Super Bowl winning type career when he was out there playing. Extremely productive.
Two Super Bowls and a 2,000-yard season, right?
Wow. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. And the thing about it is, I think this is since I'm out to all these Steeler fans that I have, on the contact list and be like, hey, we're going to talk about it. And is Troy, considered a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Yeah, that's definitely a touchstone topic right there.
All right, and I think that's about it with our NFL talk. Want to go to entertainment?
Yeah, of course there was more NFL in 45 to 9, but tonight a lot of people called in on the later end, so we're gonna shorten the NFL section and get into our closing segment, which is entertainment.
And we appreciate those calls too. The people that did call in, once again, they were on point. They were definitely very informative and had us make the show even better.
And it's good to continue close out those carry that conversation through the week and then come back and exchange ideas and notes on what happened.
Definitely. And what's kind of encouraging for the callers, seems like every call we took today, Wood and Chuck, it was something we already talked about.
Right.
So we're right on point with, the items we're covering and what the callers and what the people who are listening want to hear.
Right.
All right. So entertainment wise, a lot of things going on entertainment. We're going to try to, go through these. Red Grant, after seeing Red Grant, me and Will both saw him.
Right.
And on the topic list is, do we consider him as one of the top comics? And me, not even close. I mean, he's a good guy. I like the fact that he talks about his family and
right.
He's a married guy and he's definitely fun loving. But in talking to my wife when we were driving home, he didn't have any jokes, did he? He didn't have many jokes.
He's more of a physical comedian,
yeah,
right?
He's a silly. Want to get the laughter from his silliness and stuff.
Right. And a lot of it comes from like his vulgar stuff.
Okay.
Sex wise. And what you think he is holding him back I mean, before you get in there, one thing I say was very interesting was that he came out and stated that The Cookout, which wasn't a great movie, was his own project. I didn't know that. Did he mention that?
He did not
night?
mention that. No.
I saw him Sunday night, and he mentioned that The Cookout was his project.
So is that the one with Latifah?
I think so. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Kudos to Red.
And that was that many years ago, and now here he is. So I say what I think he does benefit from is that he can do the singing stuff and the rapping, and he knows all his lyrics, and he can actually sing a little bit, and he dances. So I think maybe for him to be successful year in and year out, there's gonna have to be some nice trap music out there,
right?
Because that's a big part of his act.
That is a big, and the thing about it is, that's a very big part because he's been on that for a few years now.
It's been in his routine.
Even when it was opened up for Cat Williams, you know, years ago. I mean, he was on that. But kudos to Red Grant. I think he did a good job. It's just that some of the stuff that he had actually, you know, performed the night I was there, I've heard it before a couple times. That's all. Right. And Cedric the Entertainer was notorious for that. Right. You know, he had one good, you know, stand-up show, and he ran with it for a lot of ways. You know, when the comedian's saying, well, I know you probably heard a story about Prince, but I'm going to tell you and get a little bit more detail about it. Well, it's the same story, man. So, because you know deep down in your mind that you're giving us the same, you know, same show, but it's all good, man.
That's a tough business, man. I mean, and to see him come to Dallas, to Dayton, I was just glad that they brought in someone different. Because I've been saying for years that we can't get a Tony Roberts here or a Red Grant. He's a pro at what he Eddie, and I know those guys are pillars in that game. Even when I went and saw Cat earlier, it seems like today's professionals are just different in all walks of life. And a lot of these guys now, they don't really have a set routine. And I think that's what sets somebody like Chris Rock apart. You know, somebody like Richard Pryor, they really had these set routines. And I think what we're getting nowadays, these guys do so much work on so many different platforms and series, and Shaq's thing and BET's thing, that they don't rarely go in. I mean, and that's what Kevin Hart is winning with. When he put these specials out, he's giving you a totally new, 100% new show.
Bingo.
So I want to
Red Grant, DeRay Davis, who's better?
That's a stumper. DeRay is a bad boy, but I think I'm gonna go with Red Grant on the physical comedy and working in the music and all that stuff. For me.
No, I mean, I can go with that because, you know, Red Grant, you know, when we first mentioned him coming, we were very excited. And then when you hit me up and said that he was going to come with the new material, I said, man, let me go and put on some brand new J's for him. So you didn't get the new material, but it was good. It was fun loving, and everybody enjoyed it.
Spirit. Did he get your spirit? He didn't get your spirit right.
You came in with your spirit.
Some of y'all ain't happy.
All right. So there you go. That was funny, man. Let me quit. But he didn't. With Spirit been about 5 years, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Nah, but it's all good, man. How about Nelly, man? What's up with Nelly, another rapper? Was on a tour bus?
Yeah, in Tennessee.
And they find drugs and guns, and it's never theirs, or they didn't know. A lot of people had, you know, were.
Right, that's, you know, he 40 now, 39 or 40.
Right.
So, you know, with us. And that's what I was thinking kind of earlier to myself is, man, I don't have any drug issues, but I'm not in that life of constantly trying to record, travel, be awake, promote, blah, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I know if you watch Unsung, a lot of people got into drugs trying to stay up to work all night.
Right.
Because they don't work normal hours. So it was a little disappointing to hear the crystal meth thing, and I heard some of the different well-known programs talking about it. That's just what shocked me, was that, you know, the meth was on there, because, you know, I didn't think that was. If you had weed on you, you know, big deal. I mean, I think everybody got weed, but then when you have some of the harder stuff, you just take a different look at that person as an individual.
Yeah, because meth, man, it just eats you up.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Hopefully it wasn't Nelly's, but who would even at a level like Nelly, would you even associate with people who mess around with crystal meth?
Cause you're more getting away from. Isn't he on tour with not a country western person, but he would be on tour with somebody like Charlie Wilson,
Right.
or he's kind of like in that older group of.
He do the Tom Joyner cruise type
Exactly.
deal, He's
So
performing
right,
on those.
he's got a totally different act at this point. He's not messing with the hype men and 50 dudes on stage with their pants hanging down like our man Plies from last week. We think he's in a different space, so it's just kind of shocking. Like I said, when you come up and crystal meth was found, but hey, that's the travel. I mean, that's that life.
That's that life, man. Netflix, man. So what is breaking all of TVs and cables rules? What's up with that?
The Netflix owner has been adamant about rewriting TV in the house, and he said that a couple years ago he said that cable would be obsolete. So what I'm excited about is they already have House of Cards. I saw another series called Bloodline that looked pretty interesting. But Friday, April.
So not to cut you,
10th,
these are brand new series.
these original shows that are just strictly on Netflix.
Okay.
And so I don't think that might be. I don't know what the other one is, but April 10th they started Daredevil. Marvel's Daredevil, which Daredevil was one of my favorite comic books back in the day. And I talked to a guy in the office today that's a big time movie guy, and he said and one thing that Netflix is doing is when the series comes on, they put all 10 or 12 episodes on that day.
Wow.
So, people could have sat around from Friday through Sunday and watched Daredevil, the whole thing, in its entirety once or twice. But one thing that I've heard on there is that Vincent D'Onofrio, I don't know if you know who he is, but he was on the Law and Order program.
Okay.
He's Kingpin, and I've just heard that he's doing a really good job with Kingpin. I just put this on here, mainly, Jay. I think I'm gonna have to go ahead and give Netflix a subscription. Give them my subscription money again, because along with Daredevil, is 3 other characters. I think Iron Fist and Luke Cage, and it's a female. I forget her name, but it's gonna be 3 different series, original series, that will all be on Netflix.
Gotcha. So Netflix is like $7 a month. Is that what, I think I have it right now.
He said he thinks. It started at $8.99, and then when they made some changes last year, they moved more stuff to streaming.
Mm-hmm.
I think they bumped it up to maybe $13 or $14.99.
Okay, yeah.
So I just put it on here, man, for entertainment purposes. It might be a way for me to go. Some series have dropped off of network TV or even cable, and Netflix has picked it up as its own property, and extended the life of that series. So I don't know if Orange is the New Black. I don't know. I don't think that's Netflix. That might be Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different players getting involved to kind of take us away from the cable racket.
Yeah, because I know somebody at work had told me that. Well, actually, 2 people. They got the Netflix, like you just mentioned, and they also have a new streaming type cable. It's over the internet.
Roku.
Is that what it's called?
That's one of them.
And you only get TNT, or
right.
You only get you don't get no local channels though.
Right. Which is the drawback.
It's the drawback,
right.
And maybe do you get ESPN?
I heard it's a package that you can get that has all the ESPNs.
Right. But they was telling me they're paying $30 a month for Netflix and what you just mentioned.
Roku.
Is that a way to go now? Because me and you, we always talk about saving that money, man.
Hey, I tried to steer the household to that combination of tools or services. The only thing is, man, I gotta let my wife see how it looks on the screen, because that's what's killing, right. What's winning for cable is that the people that don't want to have to search for their content, that just want to press power and get directly to their content. That's why cable wins. And then they got the video on demand and all that stuff. Right now with the Roku, Netflix,
And they're telling me like once you watch, if I'm watching TV right here, we're in this room, somebody watching it in the basement, they have to watch the same show.
That's another drawback. You gotta get 2 or 3 different, but it's only a one-time payment versus monthly. But then you have to go buy your own modem, or you have to still get Time Warner's internet service. So the cable services aren't totally out of your pocket, or you're not whatever. Either way,
we understand.
But Netflix is they might get a call from the Woodhouse.
There it is. Hey man, Lil Wayne, you heard that Lil Wayne song? I just heard it the other day after we went to the show. I mean, to the comedy show. We went out a little bit. That Lil Wayne with Little Kim, not Little Kim. Nicki Minaj and Drake. What's it called? Truffle Butter.
Yeah, truth. I don't even want to mess.
Yeah,
yeah I've they
Lil
all
Wayne
sound
can
the
rap
same.
though, can he?
Huh?
Lil Wayne can rap a little bit.
Lil Wayne's a bad boy. One interesting comment that I heard from 50, and part of this thing that's going on with him and Baby now, and him saying that he's owed money. 50 made an interesting point that probably nobody really wants to say it, but he just said that Wayne really didn't deliver number wise until his 4th or 5th album, and he was just saying those of us looking from the outside, you may not look, you may be more on Wayne's side, but you might not be looking at the fact that if he was coming out on under somewhere else on his own, he may not have even been able to get to where he is now, because they would have gave up on him after the first or second project.
Yeah.
So you saying, but we can get into this topic to finish out our entertainment.
Yeah. So the Lil
But
Wayne,
you co-signing on a Lil Wayne song?
I just think Lil Wayne. I heard Drake rap and I heard Nicki rap, and you hear Lil Wayne is talented, man. He actually has bars and he can actually rap. I mean, it's silly and some of the stuff is not what we're on at this point in time, but the guy has bars and he can rap and he's talented. And I feel that for so many years he's actually held down the rap game, not only just Cash Money, Young Money.
Right.
He's actually held it down. And the guy is uber talented with what he does, because he went and signed Nicki Minaj and had the vision to sign Drake.
Right.
Where nobody would get. I mean, Nicki Minaj and Drake, if people don't know this, they were out there for years.
Right.
And nobody would touch them. But Lil Wayne, had a vision and thought he could put them in a certain lane and they can blow up. And to right now, they're probably one of the top, 5 or 6, in the game versus, marketability and,
as a group or a crew.
As a crew.
A
I mean, as a
label.
crew, they're probably number one. But I'm
Right.
talking about individually.
Oh, okay.
They're
okay.
all, up there with the tops.
Right.
So the thing about Birdman and, it just seems like you always, even though that's like a father-son relationship and some people could have dropped Lil Wayne, let's be real though, 50, Lil Wayne has definitely made his money back for Baby. Think about it though. I mean, Lil Wayne has been, because right when Lil Wayne dropped, when did the first Carter drop? And it didn't take off, but it had to be maybe even before that.
Yeah, I'm about to say could be 06.
And we're talking about 10 years and he's still relevant and strong, and he's complaining over $8 million.
I didn't even know it was a number, actually.
Right.
That's one thing that's going to be sad about with the record labels going away. I heard last week Diddy closed Daddy's House as a recording studio. But I'm just saying, and I told you a few weeks ago that Big Sean recorded his album at his house. And I think, with the label, with people being able, I mean, the Fifth Quarter show doing what we do from our little setup, all the brick and mortar and the hierarchy in the label, that's really not needed anymore.
It's not.
And I just think that's what's going to be kind of challenging and dangerous for the game, is that when you don't have, because it's just like football. I mean, you might know how to play football, but you don't know how to maintain the structure. Definitely. For the infrastructure for the games to take place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to make rules and to balance things in the competition committee and the salary cap stuff. You might be great at catching touchdowns and passing, you know, footballs and running and blocking and all that stuff. So I'm just saying, I think it's people on the sideline that still need to be involved to make sure that the product gets out here a certain way. And I just think this is another example that now here we go. You know, some people said for Wayne to go to Good Music. Does he go on his own? Blah, blah, blah. I just hate to see that leadership not being there, you know, that I heard today was Wayne was recording somewhere and said if you bring to the establishment, like if y'all bring Baby or Young Thug, any of them bums in here, then I ain't effing with y'all no more. And it's like all of them are pretty much down south, and now if they start drawing lines out on the map of what's what, where does this really go long term? You know, I mean the whole East Coast West Coast type level of tension. We don't need that. We don't need to go back to that.
You're right, man, because it's not Wayne and Baby and Young Thug that are probably gonna get into any kind of drama. I think they're bigger than that now, protection and security. But the issues with is them young goons that they have running with them, man, and
right.
Those crews going to those nightclubs and just showing up at the studio, and who needs to get down with that? Because we both know that, all in all, none of those guys are gangsters. None of those guys are really tough guys. So, I mean, you have some feelings. You're in your feelings, and you're feeling in a certain type of way. I just think it's something that where a phone call can be made or something where cooler heads can prevail, and we can just, like you said, alleviate all the BS.
And we don't have to drag this out much because I know we're running a little long as usual. But I thought I heard it correct that Young Thug was actually considering naming his next album a Carter.
It's crazy, man.
And if that was to happen, where, like I said, where could this foolishness go? And
Young
right.
Thug. I mean,
I'm gonna toss it to you, man.
Young Thug, man.
That's entertainment for the week.
That's entertainment, man, and I guess that's why Rich Homie Quan, he was down with them too. Young Thug and
Rich Gang was at the
Rich. He left. He was like, man, I ain't got time for this stuff because you know Rich Homie has his own little fan base. You know, we talked about him being down with Michigan State during the football season. So he whoever his people and his handlers are, they're like, hey, let's distance ourselves from this BS. Because one thing we always applaud the South on is working together.
Right.
They feature on each other's albums. They don't have any issues. And now with this, we need to alleviate it. So I think that's entertainment. Anything else?
No, man, I just want to say I heard a decent podcast over the week. There might be one more conscious album out there that people might want to check out. Big Rapper Pooh, or Rapper Big Pooh from Little Brother fame. He put out an EP called Words Paint Pictures. And it's a really socially conscious project. I think it might be 7 or 8 songs. I heard some of the songs, and I think I'm gonna pick up a few of the singles. So Words Paint Pictures.
And that's Little Brother, Big Brother Pooh?
Big Rapper Pooh.
Big Rapper Pooh. Where's he from?
North Cac.
North Cac. There it is, man. Yeah. All right, man. That's a good show today. We had a lot of stuff we talked about. I think everything was very detailed and informative, so hopefully you check it out. We've been doing a good job with getting these shows up on the internet very soon. I think we get them up by midnight, right?
That's for you to go to work the next day. Take the work with you the next day. Yeah,
and everybody has really been listening, and the thing about it is we get so much feedback from what we can do better and what you guys we touched on. We just need that kind of feedback. You got to call on